In today's Leeds news, Borna Sosa linked with move in the summer. Is time running out for Jesse Marsch? Gnonto's impressive stat. Carlos Corberan linked with Leeds. Morning, folks. February 6th. It's a Monday, and it's not a great Monday. And before we get into the news, because there's not a huge amount going on, which is understandable considering yesterday, to everyone who watches this channel and always says that it's a positive channel and we try and keep things upbeat, I apologize for today because unfortunately sometimes we need to just actually talk about what's actually going wrong at the club. We'll get into the Jesse Marsch stuff a little bit. I'm not going to do a full match review, but we will do a review of the situation after we get the main headlines out of the way. So let's crack on with this and talk about Borna Sosa, potential incoming in the summer. According to Christian Falk of Bild, Leeds will be looking to bring in another left back in the summer, possibly Borna Sosa, 25-year-old Croatian left back who had a really impressive World Cup, is currently playing for Stuttgart and has had over 90 appearances for the club. The Bild journalist has said that Leverkusen and Frankfurt are both interested in bringing the player in as well. Price tag for the player is ranging in and around 10.5, 10.7 to 12 to 15 million kind of bracket. It's in pounds, and looks to be a very sturdy, defensive-minded left back. So depending on what happens at Leeds over the next couple of months, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. But pretty much the only thing in terms of incoming on that. Moving on, then let's start talking about the stuff that's the real talking point this morning. And according to the Daily Mail and Football Insider, Carlos Corberan is emerging as a potential candidate to replace Jesse Marsch should Leeds board decide to move on replacing Jesse. What they've said is that Radrazani and Parag Marathe will be the ones that will discuss this and will have talks about the situation currently. They also said that Leeds considered making a change of management at the beginning of January, but decided instead to financially back Jesse and bring in more players, which hasn't really worked out. If you look at Carlos Corberan as an option for Leeds, and his stats are actually very good. When he took over Huddersfield, they were in the relegation zone. He took them to the playoff finals. If you look at what he's done at West Brom were in the bottom three when he took over. And in less than 13 games so far, he has gotten them up into the top six in the championship. He's averaging 2.3 points per game out of 3, which is impressive. What it is showing is that Corberan has an ability to take underperforming teams or teams that aren't performing for the managers and get a tune out of them. People say that he's a Marcelo Bielsa student. He is to a degree, but don't forget he was at Leeds before Bielsa came to Leeds as well. So he has got a longer history with Leeds as well. He did leave Leeds for the right reasons. He left Leeds to go and pursue a management career as opposed to an assistant management career. He's talked very positively about the impact that Bielsa has had on him over the last couple of years as well. Recently, West Bromwich Albion want to offer Corberan a brand new deal to tie him down on bigger money and to keep interest away from him. He is on a contract till 2025, but you would imagine if a Premier League club comes knocking with significant increase in wages, then he would consider making that move. So it'll be interesting to see. If you look at his ability, he did have a spell at Olympiacos in the middle of those two spells in Huddersfield and West Brom that didn't go well. He got 3 months and was fired, which is not a long time, but then you're going into a team that's competing for Champions League spots and he didn't get them into those spots in those couple of months. So they reacted quickly and moved on. So that's the situation there. It's a tricky one. There's not a whole else going on. The result yesterday against Nottingham Forest was disappointing for lots of reasons. Outside the fact of Nottingham Forest have brought in so many new players, and you would imagine that hasn't clicked yet. They didn't play well, Forest. Steve Cook said after the game that Forest didn't play well and yet got a result and a 1-0 win. And the issue seems to be for Leeds is that we don't score goals. We know we can't keep a clean sheet. And some of the goal was a poor one to concede. There possibly was an offside in the build-up to it, but it wasn't given. You still have to defend the situation, and we didn't defend it well. It wasn't the first time in the game where we left players unmarked on the edge of the box. There was 5 or 6 at different points as well. But another City free kick given away that leads to a goal against Leeds. And then outside of everything that Leeds tried to do in the first half, they couldn't break them down. Some of the players have to take responsibility for that as well, but then you've got to look at the atmosphere in the ground and the atmosphere in the dressing room and see what the hell's going on in the club right now. If you look at Gnonto, he created more chances yesterday than at any point and the team has created this season at all. And Leeds still couldn't score. We did the Pat Bamford air shot, then we had the really bad touch that ran 20 yards ahead to the goalkeeper. You can say it took a nick off the defender, but you're supposed to be tuned in. You're waiting for those mistakes, and we didn't capitalize on them. Sinistera missing a couple of chances yesterday as well. Gnonto had a couple of strikes on target. He still looks like our best player. The issue for me here is that we're putting all of our hope on a 19-year-old who's just gone 19, and it's not fair and needs to get better. So we'll we'll wrap up the news stuff there. We'll move on. There'll be a little break here in a sec just to break up the news from the miserable bit that's coming. So if you want to talk about Jesse Marsch, we'll have a chat next in 2 secs. Right, so Nottingham Forest 1, Leeds United 0, a game that Leeds needed to get a result from. It was that situation again that towards the end of the game, you're looking at going, I'll take a draw. But if anything in the second half of the game, if anything was going to happen, it was Nottingham Forest probably nicking a second. If you take Max Verber out of the equation, Cooper as well, to a degree, a decent game. Take the 2.5 out of the game, we could have been in serious trouble yesterday. Losing's bad enough, but we could have been in big trouble. The Jesse Marsch stuff, and where I sit with Jesse Marsch is, and I'll be balanced again. I'll try and be balanced. I don't want to go super negative. I'm not going to be that person. I'm not that way inclined anymore, so I don't want to be that kind of person. But we talk about this. Jesse is known and has been talking an awful lot about creating a positive environment for the players, creating a culture of leadership, and creating an atmosphere where winning mentality kicks in and we can win games. And the issue for me is that it's 12 months, and I have nothing wrong with what he says there. I completely agree that that's what you should do as a manager. You should be looking to create a culture, and top managers create unique cultures, and that's what you should always be looking to do. The issue is, and the motivational stuff doesn't bother me either. Getting lads to watch the Netflix documentary on the Redeem team, not a big deal. I've done some motivational stuff in the past as well. I do it my job most of the day, most of the time anyway. So it's no issue with that as well. But it's when things aren't going well that you start to nitpick at these things. You start to pull these little threads and see what's behind them. And unfortunately, what's coming out is that we don't seem to have many structured phases of play anymore. We don't seem to have any structured passing patterns. We don't seem to know phase to phase what we're going to do. And I've been all season going, well, let's give him a chance. Let's give him time. Let's give him a chance to get this to bed in. 70 million plus worth of players sitting on the bench yesterday. I mean, you don't have time to bed these players in. Other clubs that were in similar situations have brought their new signings straight into their team. Pat Bamford still looks devoid of all confidence. He scores a couple of goals against Cardiff, a goal against Cardiff. He gets a couple of assists against Accrington Stanley, and we're all thinking he's back. And then we get back to a player who looks absolutely devoid. I mean, an air shot in the Premier League. When do you see that ever happening? You know, should Reuter have started? I don't know. Coming into the game in the second half with the way the game had gone in the second half, and Leeds had really kind of gone out of the game. But in XG, I think it was 0.2 in the second half, which is dreadful. It's just not good enough, unfortunately, for Leeds right now. And we're getting to situations. I wanted to give us till the halfway point to see how we were done. We're at the halfway point. We don't have enough points to stay up if we match the same results as we've had the first half of the season. And bearing in mind, we've got wins against Liverpool and Chelsea in the first half of the season. I don't see them coming again in the second half of the season. That's 6 points less. We can't seem to beat the teams that are down there around us. The irony of this is we could go out against Manchester United and probably stuff them, and he'll keep his job for another couple of weeks, and then lose to Everton at Southampton. If you look at the run, you've got Manchester United, home and away. You've got to get something out of those games now. Where before it was like free hit. If you missed it, if you don't get anything of those two games, we haven't Manchester United since we've come up. So you can kind of say free hit there, but you've got to get Everton and Southampton then, and you've got to get Forest. You're looking at potential February of going through the entire month with no points. We're now in a worse situation by 6 points of where Bielsa was at this point last season. Bielsa was sacked like that. The issue for me on the sacking is that Bielsa was fired because the remuneration package was quite small in terms of there was only 6 months left on his contract. Jesse Marsch has 2.5 years left on his contract. There's a much bigger remuneration package. Now, I don't think he's earning as much as Bielsa was earning, but there's question marks there. If you look at potential incoming managers that can do a job here, I like Ange in Celtic. I was going to say, I can never pronounce Ange's second name. I should be able to do that. I'm an Irish person. I watch Celtic games. But Ange from Celtic is a good option. Carlos Corberan is my personal favourite. Let's talk about Mourinho being linked and possibly coming back. Mourinho has made comments about managing Leeds in the past, and I think Leeds are a big club. I just think Mourinho's at the more negative end of his career to be coming in to try and lift the dressing room right now. I think he might just bury it. A couple of years ago, I would have been all over Mourinho coming in. I don't think he's a top 3 manager anymore, but I think he can definitely get us up to mid-table in the league. But I think probably right now it's not what we need. A more defensive manager is what he is, and I think we just need somebody with a bit more structure. There's plenty of other names floating around, but if, again, talking about Corberan's track record, 2.3 points per game average since he's come into Huddersfield, or West Brom, who were in an awful position. You look what he did with Huddersfield, gets them into the playoffs, he leaves, they're back down the bottom 3, and that's an impact. That's a coaching impact. You can see that there. So for me, I would be bringing him in, but I don't make the decisions. I said it a while ago that Jesse was running out of road, and unfortunately, I think we got to the point now where Jesse's ran out of road. I think we're at the dead end now, and a decision needs to be made. It's a big decision. You've got to get it right. Do you do it now? Well, you've got a midweek game. Do you wait till the midweek game's out of the way? Do you wait till next week? The longer you kick the can down the road, the longer the opportunity to get a bounce goes away. So it'll be an interesting one. If you want to get more thoughts on this, I will be on Joe's show tonight over on Just Joe YouTube channel. No doubt that'll be the main topic of conversation there as well anyway. So if you want to get more thoughts on that, you can pop over and see us later on. But that'll be me for the day, folks. Again, apologies for the negative bit on this, but unfortunately it's that kind of a day. We've got to be realistic about this as well. I like Jesse Marsch. I think he's a good guy. I think he's probably a very good coach. Unfortunately, it just isn't working out for him as a manager, unfortunately. And I think it's a sad day to say it, but come to the end of the line and we think we need to move on. I think it's starting to look more and more like everyone's in agreement with that as well. So it's nothing personal. It's no measure against the person himself. As I said, seems like a really good guy. But unfortunately, results are what we need, and it doesn't seem to be improving. Right, so folks, I will see you tomorrow. Fingers crossed for some better news and some actual Leeds news. I'll talk to you then. See you. Bye.